This November, no matter the outcome, we will elect our 47th chief executive. But first, we're going to take a look back at how the presidents became president. This is your countdown to 47. We've now reached the dude president, Chester Alan Arthur. Prior to becoming the 21st president, Arthur was the son of an abolitionist Baptist preacher who instilled in him a motivation and value set he'd hold for the rest of his life. He graduated from college with high honors, was admitted to the state bar, and made partner at a Brooklyn law office all before the age of 25. In 1855, Arthur successfully prosecuted a case on behalf of a woman who sued a railroad company for forcibly removing her from a train car because of her race. In 1861, the Civil War began, and Chester Alan Arthur was appointed as Brigadier General in the New York Militia, and he was placed in charge of protecting the New York Harbor. The following year, he was promoted to Quartermaster General and was responsible for providing barracks, equipment, and food for soldiers. In 1871, President Grant appointed him Collector of the Port of New York, where he allied himself with New York Senator Roscoe Conkling, becoming a supporter of the patronage system. Now remember, we first introduced that concept when we looked at President Garfield last week. It's key to remember that both Grant and Arthur supported the patronage system. Garfield did not. This plays a huge role in Arthur's presidential genesis, but I won't get too ahead of myself. In 1880, Arthur and his ally Conkling lobbied for former President Grant to receive the Republican nomination. However, when dark horse candidate James A. Garfield was named the nominee, Arthur was chosen to be his running mate. The two were elected that November. When President Garfield and Senator Conkling began their struggle over Garfield's appointments, Vice President Arthur stood with his longtime ally. Garfield eventually won that struggle, but an assassin's bullet soon changed everything. On July 2, 1881, a disturbed man named Charles Guiteau shot President Garfield in the back at a railroad station in Washington, D.C. The assassin later claimed he shot Garfield to make way for Arthur to become president. He soon got his wish. After months of suffering, President Garfield succumbed to his wounds, dying just over 6 months into his term. Arthur was now to become the 21st President of the United States. However, President Arthur would prove to be a different kind of chief executive than many expected. Following Garfield's assassination, and after learning that he had a terminal case of kidney disease, Arthur had a change of heart. He distanced himself from old allies. The former supporter of patronage began to push for civil service reform. This passion culminated in his signing of the Pendleton Act of 1883, which protects government employees from being terminated on the basis of political affiliation. This law remains in effect today. Arthur also pushed for the lowering of tariffs to avoid continual government surpluses. This became a prominent partisan issue going forward. Nearing the end of his term, Arthur made a half-hearted attempt for the Republican nomination in 1884. This was because of his worsening kidney disease, which he kept a secret during his presidency. He died 1 year after leaving office at the age of 57. It was later said of Arthur that no man ever entered the presidency so profoundly and widely distrusted, and no one ever retired more generally respected. Chester Alan Arthur served as President of the United States from 1881 to 1885. I'm Eric George for Valley News Live, and this has been your countdown to 47.